Russia's latest drone barrage exposed a glaring weakness in NATO's defences. Cheap wooden and foam Shahed knockoffs slipped into Polish airspace, forcing billion-dollar F-35s, Patriot batteries and NATO jets to scramble. The message from Moscow is blunt. NATO is burning fortunes to counter $10,000 drones, and it isn't ready for the next wave. Polish and NATO forces scrambled overnight on September 9th and 10th to intercept Russian drones that breached Polish airspace. The incident marks the alliance's first direct military engagement with Moscow since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine began in 2022, and it has exposed a troubling gap in NATO's preparedness. The violation occurred during a Russian aerial assault on Ukraine. At least 19 drones entered Polish territory, setting off alarms in Warsaw and Brussels. NATO and Polish jets were dispatched, and some were shot down. But the scale of the response revealed an imbalance. Cheap drones made of wood and foam were intercepted with some of the world's most advanced and expensive weapons systems. According to analysts, the alliance only managed to shoot down about 3 drones. By comparison, Ukraine routinely reports interception rates of 80 to 90%, despite facing far larger drone barrages.
There's a discrepancy between Russia's low-cost gear and NATO's expensive military response.
The drones, known as Gerberas, are cheap knockoffs of Iran's Shahed model and cost as little as $10,000 each to produce. Yet their entry into NATO airspace prompted the deployment of Dutch F-35 fighter jets, an Italian surveillance plane, a NATO refueling aircraft, and even a German Patriot air defense system. Billions of dollars in equipment were mobilized to neutralize a handful of drones worth less than a luxury car. Welt reported that 5 of the drones were on a direct flight path toward a NATO base before being destroyed. Analysts say the operation was necessary, but also underscored how disproportionate NATO's response can be when faced with low-tech threats. The fallout was immediate. Poland invoked NATO's Article 4, forcing alliance members into urgent consultations. Both Poland and Latvia shut down their eastern airspace. NATO leaders are now considering new defensive measures to prevent a repeat. This episode has reignited long-standing concerns over NATO's weakest spot, air defense. While the European Union has urged countries to invest more in counter-drone systems, much of the funding still flows into costly traditional missile systems rather than low-cost, scalable defences designed to stop swarms of small unmanned aircraft. The issue came to the forefront on September 11th during a closed-door briefing between NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte and EU ambassadors in Brussels, the first time an alliance chief has addressed such a meeting. Several participants reportedly worried that the incident highlighted how ill-prepared the West remains for modern drone warfare. NATO's reliance on advanced jets like the F-35 is unsustainable. Few militaries can afford to deploy them regularly against drones that cost a fraction of the price of a missile, let alone a fighter aircraft. Europe's defence industry is beginning to pivot. In August, Sweden's Saab unveiled the Nimbrix, a low-cost missile tailored to counter small drones. France's arms agency DGA also commissioned a demonstrator for a laser-based anti-drone system, developed by companies including MBDA, Safran, Thales and Silas. But progress is slow. Smaller, innovative defense startups, many working on electronic jamming and autonomous counter-drones, often struggle to break through bureaucratic procurement systems.
By definition, we will need a layered defense with both electronic and kinetic countermeasures.
That's precisely the model Ukraine has adopted. Facing nightly waves of Russian drones, Kyiv uses both electronic warfare systems to jam signals and mass produces thousands of interceptor drones each month. The result is a far more resilient, adaptable defense than NATO currently fields. France's former Chief of Defense Staff, General Thierry Burkhard, recently warned that European militaries need to abandon traditional procurement models based on small batches of expensive weapons. Instead, they must prepare for large-scale, low-cost production, the kind of industrial-scale drone defense already underway in Ukraine. The challenge is compounded by stockpile shortages. Years of supplying Ukraine have depleted Europe's missile inventories. Manufacturing delays mean new systems cannot be built quickly enough to replenish reserves, leaving NATO countries vulnerable. Observers argue that Europe's problem is not the quality of its weapons, many of which are world-class, but their quantity. On top of that, there is unease across the continent over just how dependent Europe's defense remains on the United States. Most NATO countries have pledged to raise defense spending, and frontline states like Poland and the Baltics already invest a larger share of their GDP than Western allies. But experts warn it may take until 2030 before Europe sees a meaningful increase in its ability to defend itself from drone swarms and other asymmetric threats. As defense analyst Saville put it, it will take both time and targeted investment in cheaper, scalable systems. Without them, NATO risks finding itself in the same situation again, deploying trillion-dollar assets against $10,000 drones. Zelensky too cautioned the West against an over-reliance on expensive air defense munitions. In light of Russia's growing use of cheap, long-range attack drones, Zelensky, during a press conference on September 11th, said,
"We offered our help because the Patriots will not help Poland in the fight against the Shaheds, and they will not help anyone. This is purely a weapon against ballistic missiles, first of all. Today, the USA, the world's leading producer of these missiles, produces 50-60 missiles per month. When we are taking down 500-800 Shaheds per day, it is clear that the Patriots are not designed to take down drones. Patriot missile costs $2 to $3 million USD. Drone, Shahed, or Jiran costs up to $100,000. That is, Patriot systems, are not designed to fight drones. I believe that no one has such a system today. Only we have it and the Russians have it. Accordingly, we are open and ready. Donald Tusk said he would send his military whoever is needed. I put them in touch with our Minister of Defense, with Commander Oleksandr Syrski. Commander Syrski is in touch with the commander of Poland today. So the next steps are technical.
Over the past year, Ukraine has adapted to Russia's Shahed waves by building a layered defense network. Vehicle-mounted machine guns, electronic warfare, interceptor drones, and even helicopters hunting down aerial targets. Advanced air defense munitions are largely reserved for Russia's ballistic and cruise missiles, often launched alongside drones in combined strikes. Calling this approach a multi-system for air defense, Zelensky urged NATO states to learn and adopt similar strategies.